Hi, I'm Emily Harding from Daisy Hollow Farm, and today we're going to be showing you how to make wool scrubbies. This is a bar of soap wrapped inside wool. It's our own handmade soap that we make here at the farm, and the wool is hand-dyed from our own sheep here at the farm. And you use this in the bath or the shower just like you would use a loofah sponge. So to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to take a bar of soap. This is our Simply Lemongrass soap. I'll pull the wrapper off. And I have some wool here from our sheep. So I'm just going to wrap this around the soap, and you want to try to make it so you don't have too much of the soap showing through, and the end product is going to look like these. I have these white dots on. This white dot here shows me that this is a lemongrass soap. This shows me that this is a lavender soap, so that's just my own personal marks there. So when you've got that wrapped, we're going to now wet felt the wool onto the soap, and we do that here at the sink. You're going to want your water to be nice and hot. The hotter the better, as hot as you can stand. And you're going to just run your soap under the water. I'm not pressing, I'm just getting it wet. When it's wet thoroughly through, I'm going to start squeezing. And this is going to felt the wool onto the soap, just like when you put a wool sweater in the washing machine and the dryer and it shrinks. We're shrinking our wool onto the soap again right now. I'm just squeezing, waiting for the suds to come through. When the suds come through, that wool is actually going to get kind of slippery, and I'll be able to meld it onto the soap a little bit better. So I'm getting some suds here, if you can see them. The whole process is pretty quick. And when you get the suds, you'll see the soap really start to help the wool stick. There we go. So the wool is starting to stick, it's getting smaller, it's shrinking around the soap. And again, that water is pretty hot. I had to turn a little cold on because it was too hot for my hands. I will often do this with some gloves on so I can get the water hotter. And then we'll smooth the wool around the soap so there's no soap showing through. And then what I will do is take a rag, just a dish towel, and sort of squeeze some of that excess water and soap out. And then we have our felted soap. So we're going to let this dry. Okay, so we have our soap here, nice and tightly felted on with our needle, and this one we are now ready to put a design on. I'm going to do a nice simple design. It's one of my easier ones and also one of my more popular. It's just going to be black and white sheep. I call it camouflage sheep. So we'll start with our black wool here. I've got it ready to go, and this one only needs black and a little bit more white. That's all we're going to need. So here we go. Now we're going to be learning how to needle felt our design onto our scrubby. We already have our wool on our scrubby. We just learned how to do that. So we wet felted the wool onto the soap, and then we learned how to needle felt the wool into the soap so it's nice and firm for a surface to work on. Remember, with our needles, you've got several in your kit. You're going to be working with this big needle, not the little one. The little one is for fine work when you're doing wool critters. The big one is the one you want for working with soap. So first, we've got our colors out. So I'm using brown, yellow, white, black, and a little bit of green for ours here today. So first we're going to start with the center of that flower. I've got a little bit of brown here. You can use whatever colors you want. You don't have to work on exactly what I'm working on. You can use your imagination. And any soap that you have, round or square, will work fine for this design. So first we're going to put the middle of that flower on. So that's really easy. It's just making a little circle, okay? And that's our center of our flower. And then we're going to start putting the petals on. You can make them long and skinny. You can make them bigger and more bulbous if you want to do that. And we're always working with little bits of wool at a time. We can always add more, and if you mess up, you can always pull it out and start again. So there's a petal that we're going to use here. So just have that radiating out of your flower. I'd start it right at the center of the flower and work out. So I always do the edges first so that we can get our, it's kind of like when you're drawing with a pencil, you put your pencil design first and then you color it in afterwards. That's basically what we're doing. We're doing the edges first, so that's our, basically our sketch. And then once you have your edges more or less set to where you want them to be, then you push in that wool to make the inside flat and not as poofy. Though you can use poofiness as part of like the imagery, like a 3D imagery of your design if you wanted to do that. Okay, so there's our first petal. And we're just going to keep doing that all the way around the flower. Okay, so we have our petals all set to go. Actually, I'm going to turn it like that. Now what we're going to do is put our stem on, and you can put as many petals on as you want. Just sort of go with how you're feeling and how the spacing works. I put fewer petals on this one than this one. So we're going to do the stem and the leaf here now. So we're going to choose our green. And what we're going to do the stem is take a little bit of green. We're going to roll it. Almost like we're spinning. See how it makes it nice and tight? And then you can put that on really however you want. You can have it going whatever direction you want. You can have it coming out from the side. I feel with this one that I'm going to go right up through and maybe give it a little bit of an arch, because I think it would be a little bit more natural to have a little bit of an arch here. And I'm doing the edges, I'm kind of grabbing it from one side and pulling it over to the other side. And then I'll go up and down both sides. If it's too skinny, I've got a little bit of a tail here. You can take that tail and tuck it up. Just following along the edges, the outline of your stem. And there we go. And then we'll do a little bit of a leaf so it's kind of off to the side a little bit. And then we'll do our leaf. You can do your leaf however you want. Sunflowers have kind of big heart-shaped leaves. Black-eyed Susans kind of have more of a lance-shaped leaf. So we'll do like a lance-shaped leaf here, as if it was a black-eyed Susan. And then maybe we'll do another one on that side too, just to give it a little bit of balance here. So again, take it, roll it a little bit, kind of shape it a little bit so it kind of has a little bit of the shape that you're looking for before you even put it on the wool. And I'm holding it down with one finger. Try not to stab yourself, it does hurt. The kits came with finger protectors. I have a hard time using them and trying to get the design that I want because it just seems to get in the way, but I do have a lot of people during classes that like to use them when they're learning. But everybody pokes themselves. Just be careful, especially if there's kids, because the needles are sharp. But the kids love to do these projects too. All right, then we've got our second leaf there. And now we're going to put our little bee on. And really, wherever your flower is, just find a spot where it looks like a bee can fit. Like I can put a little bee here, I think. So I'll do that. So I'm going to grab a little bit more yellow. And instead of doing a nice skinny shape, I'm going to do a little bit more of an oval. And you can do whatever size bee you want. You can do a big bee or a little bee. If it's bigger, you can give it more detail. You can do a whole group of little tiny bees. But I'll just do one big bee to show you how to do that. So again, if you notice, I am doing the outline first, trying to make it nice and smooth, bringing in all those loose bits of wool, bringing them around. And then I do the inside after I get a good edge for the outside. So there's my bee body. And then what I'll do is take a little black, and really you just need a little bit of black. Let's do a couple stripes on him. So take it a little bit, it's such a small amount of wool, and you're going to roll it and twist it in your fingers, and then put it in right at the tip of the body and then at the other tip, and you can kind of stretch it. And then take that little tail and you can tuck that up in. You can also cut it off if you have too much of a little bit of a tail there. So there's the first stripe, and then we'll take a little bit more black and we'll make a second stripe again. Just such a small amount of wool here. We're going to twist it, and you can see I'm kind of tucking the edges in so there's no bits of frayed. And then I'm going to put it in right at the edge of the body. I'm going to stretch it out a little bit and put it right at the other end there. And then you can see that it might not look like there's a room for an eye here. So what we can do is we can make his little face a little bit bigger so we have room to put our little bee eye. So I'll just add a little wool onto to its nose area. And now that should be plenty of room for a little eye. Okay, so let's do the wing next. So you need a little bit of white, and roll it in your fingers until you sort of have like a little fan shape. So there's a little sort of fan shape there. Place it on and poke it in right where it's going to hit the body first, and you can start from there and pull it with your needle to get the shape that you want. Sometimes there's a little bit of hay chaff in there, so you just want to pick that out. That makes it real. Okay, so I'm going to tuck that black a little bit in. And then after I do the edges, I'm going to poke in the middle, and there we have our wing. So all we need is an eye and a little stinger. So this is such a tiny amount of black again, little tiny bit. Roll it in your fingers. Sometimes it helps to get your fingers a little bit wet if they're too dry and you can't get a good roll going on. There we go. See, tiny little eyeball. And you're going to take that eyeball and you can actually stab with your needle to get it to go right where you need it to go, and you're just poking it in. And you might poke it in too much and the whole thing will disappear in there. You can always add a little bit more. So there's his little eye, and then we just need about that same amount, tiny bit more for his little stinger. So we're going to roll out a little bit of a longer piece for his stinger. And again, tuck it in right where it hits the body first. And then I head towards the back end of the stinger. And it's just a few pokes really to get that guy to stay. And then I'm just going to fix up a little bit of the side here. And there you have it.